Well, Rem knew Maggie, and Charles' family and Rem's family, the children of both of them, they were friends, and the children grew up together. So Rem, was part of the period that Maggie was actually suffering from cancer and dying too. So I think because of that he anyway said yes right away. But also we thought it is a very nice thing to do. It's something that we can give something back. And we also thought it's very nice to work on a small building actually. And then of course at the end we got the additional bonus because the building is 50% landscape. And of course we are not landscape designers. The only image we had was birches and ferns, like we want something rural, something as a green environment. And Julie, I think, did a fantastic job. She interpreted and invented a lot more species in the garden which I couldn't even think of, which really fit in the Scottish landscape.
When people come through the door in Maggie's, then they respond in many different ways. The vast majority of people exhale and give a sigh of relief. They have a sense of coming into somewhere that's a good place to be, that's a safe place to be, somewhere that they can stop for a while, rest, take stock of what's going on before they carry on in their journey. For other people, they come into the centre and they have quite an overwhelming emotion, so they may start crying, they may become very upset, but again that's a sense of release, that's a sense of them having come somewhere that allows them to do that, that enables them to do that and tells them that it's okay, that these emotions and these feelings are all right, they're part of what's going on and what's happening to them. Most people that come into the centre feel a sense of being welcomed and a sense of coming into a community, and that's what we see at the kitchen table. People who would have sat in a hospital waiting room and not even made eye contact with people coming into the centre, sitting down at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and immediately starting a conversation with somebody next to them. And that's really lovely. That's what gives the centre its vibrancy, that's what gives the centre its heart.
Of course, the initial idea for the building was to make a continuous sequence of rooms without corridors. And in that sequence of rooms you could modify certain rooms to enclose them and open them again. So that gave us the ability to use rooms which were thought to be counselling rooms actually become living rooms. So there's this constant play. And if you look in the sequence of the rooms in plan, you also feel in the building that one side of the building is more loud and the other side of the building is more quiet, and we did that on purpose.
People need to have a sense of the natural world and that whole cycle of change and growth, and the fact that everything comes to pass. We've almost forgotten that our life is actually a series of cycles of change, and you get that from the natural world, you get that from being able to connect with a garden, see the leaves come onto the trees and then fall off again, and you get a real sense of permanence.
Basically the program of the building is almost like a house. So we have a few counselling rooms which are at the same time living rooms. Yeah. So they're used in both ways. You will see we also made, for example, the toilet, the bathroom very large. It's like a room. Actually we have 2 bathrooms and we have a kind of meditation room. These are the only enclosed rooms. You have the light but you cannot be seen. So it's really private. And of course the idea was to have the rooms like overlaid in a plan, without creating corridors, because we're always obsessed with not having corridors. And the terrain is slightly sloped, so it goes a little bit up, so there are little ramps in between. We were really looking in incorporating the timber in the concrete. And so what we did some experiments with the contractor, who is a total fan of doing experiments with concrete, so he was absolutely willing to do nice samples for us. So he put timber in a formwork, poured concrete on top in his workshop. And then the first 2 samples went terribly wrong because we didn't treat the timber, therefore all the moisture from the concrete went into the timber and then it expanded. And anyway, so at the end we found out that we had to isolate the timber with a coating to make sure that we don't have this interaction.
The environment that we have created through everything that's come together, the architecture, the interior design, the staff that work here, makes it much easier for me to get to a deeper level with centre users quicker than it has in other situations.
So it's a kind of idealised home that's been created here, is that it?
It's a place where people can come in and they can relate to it as a homely environment, but it has none of the stresses and strains of you know, none of the worries of my dishes are in the sink, the kids are going to come home from the school any minute, my neighbour might pop in. You know, you're away from all of that, but yet you feel as if you've got the same level of comfort and domesticity as you have in your own house.
So I love working in the centre, and I love seeing every day what it can do for people. We talk about the first thing people do when they come in the centre is exhale. They need to be able to get to a point where they think, okay, now's the time that I can have this conversation. I'm in the right place to be able to say I'm really scared, or I'm really frightened, or I'm not really sure how I'm going to get through the next sort of 6 or 9 months. And the environment that we have is what helps us to get them to exhale, so that we can then sit there with them and have that conversation.